So you're an indie developer and you want to use social media to market your game, but you don't really have a budget. You don't really have any followers yet. And it feels like when you're posting, you're screaming into the void. Hi, my name is Devin, CEO and founder of Glitch, a marketing platform used by thousands of game developers, publishers, and game marketers who successfully market and promote their games. We're going to show you in this lesson how to use the social media in its beginning stages to actually power bottom line KPIs for your game. And by bottom line KPIs, you don't want to focus on things like views, shares, and other things like that, or follower count. You want to focus on how your social media, even at the smallest stages, will empower your wish list growth, your installs, your demo plays, and ultimately your sales. Now, in this example, we're going to be starting with a brand new Steam page. And the reason why we're starting with a brand new Steam page is that we want to showcase that this is how, this new Steam page is actually going to get wish list from social media accounts that have virtually zero following in them, like literally 2 to 3 followers on these accounts. And we want to show like the techniques that we're going to use to actually drive this wish list growth and how it does impact your overall growth of your Steam page. I want to lay out the lesson plan here so you can understand what we're going to be discussing, but also where in the video we're going to be discussing it. I left time marks in here so you can skip ahead to any point inside the lesson if you don't want to watch everything. So first part is who is this for? Then we're going to go over what kind of content should I post. People always ask, I need a piece of content. What should I be posting on here? We'll go over that too. Then we'll go over all the 4 weeks. Remember, this is a lesson on how to start your social media over the course of 1 month. So we're going to break down what happened each week by week and then how that ultimately impacted the wish list. Then we're going to review all the weeks as a whole. After that, we're going to break down each social media platform and how their impact was on overall wish list growth. And then when should you start actually marketing on your socials? People always ask, do I start marketing now or later? So we'll answer that for you there. And then after this 1 month, what do you do after the month? We'll lay out like marketing beats after that. And then finally, we'll talk about why UTMs typically don't work on Steam. This reference is for indies that really don't have a budget and have no following. This is different from if you had a budget, we'd actually have a different strategy for larger studios that we use. I'll talk about in other videos. So in this one, the Steam page is just launching. We are not using any PR or influencers or past audiences. So games sometimes will come in with prior audiences who have played other games that have their following already, or they'll use things like PR influencers to announce the new Steam page. We are not doing that here. This Steam page will just use social media as it is. And then the third thing about this is this will not have a demo live either. So when you launch a game on Steam and you put your demo on, Steam will treat your page differently if you have a demo versus no demo. If you have no demo, Steam's not going to promote it that much, so you're not going to get that much traction. If you have a demo, Steam will put your page out to other people more through its algorithm because it wants people to actually play the demo and engage like how strong of a game your fit is. Again, this will not have a demo because we want to prove how social media can have impact on your Steam page. So first, let's start with the kind of content that I like to produce on social media. So in the first month, you have to produce like a lot of content, like literally like 60 pieces for this to be effective. With that, every piece of content cannot be high quality. And I'm going to go over two mistakes I see devs make. The first mistake is that they don't realize that all content is fair game, from your sketches to you building models to you just talking about like short form dev stuff. That is all fair game and content that can be posted on social media. The second mistake I see is when the content they make is specifically geared towards developers. Now, you can make developer content, but make it exciting for consumers, and I'll get into that in like a second in this video, but we want to avoid those two mistakes. Now, so starting out, remember, you have to produce a lot of content in this first month to see like how it's going to work. So if you have like sketches that you do, design mock-ups, modeling, these can be still images. This is actually a very easy one to do. Very, very easy one to do. You can produce a lot of content this way, and people will love it. And they love it because it's like you're building in public, meaning that people get to come along with you on your journey and see what you're doing, and sometimes even give feedback and validation, and you get to build your audience early. So use this early dev content that you can do, take screenshots of what you're building, post it on social, explain it. And even if you have lore, add lore around it too. Another kind of content I like to do is outside of images is the building of stuff. So this is when like a developer can record the screen as they put together something, and then they can fast forward it into a video, and they can show like how they built something from start to end. And people, again, they love this kind of content. Then you can have like your finalized artwork. The finalized artwork can be the still images that just look gorgeous. So if you can produce like a lot of this artwork as well, post it online. And then we have, short gameplay clips. You don't want to have like anything that's too robust. Just 10, 15, 20, 30-second videos of your game. That's good enough. So create your content like movies create content, meaning that, you post 20, 30 seconds of something that's really engaging and exciting and makes people want to just learn more about your game. And then finally, if you're going to post devlog content, again, make it short and exciting. A quick, this is how I did this. This was the end result. Remember, the point of your game is to entertain people. Marketing should be the same way, especially on your social. You want to entertain people to get them into your game. Now we can start to actually break down the numbers. All right, so here's how this is going to work. We're going to go week by week and showcase the wish list growth. Then we're going to show the acquisition of where users are coming from. And then we're going to show how the social media marketing for that week looked in terms of impact. So week one, it feels like the hardest week out of all the weeks because literally you have nothing and you're posting and you're not getting any views, any traction, any comments at all. That is cool, but this is part of going through the valley to get to the peak. So, I want you to the first week, try to do probably at least 6, 7 pieces of content, one piece of content a day at least, just to start gaining some momentum here. Try different hashtags, try different at times of the day that you post. Remember, week one, you're just testing things out. That's all you're doing. All right. So, first week when we launched on October 25th, you can see we hit about 43 wish lists, and the daily active wish list at a high. Typically, when you launch, that's when you get the most wish lists. The first day you're launching was about 11, and then the low was about 2. So we were never at zero wish list here. So where are these wish lists, or where is the traffic coming from? Remember, in order to generate wish lists, you need to have people who are actively visiting your page. So in between those 2 dates, we had 2,000 impressions and almost 1,000 people actually came to the page. Coming down here, we had a 39% click-through rate and 711 visits that came from the Steam assets. Now, here's where I like to break things down. Looking at whether the visits were internal or external, and then where on Steam that they were actually coming from. So we can see the click-through rates from search suggestions where it's around 50%. People were clicking through 188 impressions. This is actually means that the artwork that the capsule had was resonating with people. Here we have 344 impressions with a 20% click-through rate. So this page means that it has good artwork. Now, we have about 25% coming from direct navigation. Another 20% is considered bots. So 35% of the traffic for this week was actually from external websites. So here, if we go to our analytics section on our back end, we have all of the posts and engagement that went out for this time period here. Um, so remember, one of the things that we do really well is link tracking, where we put tracking links inside of the content we're posting so we can actually understand where people are coming from. Okay, so a little background on tracking link. So what we can do is on all social posts that have a link to it, we entered a specialized link that when a person clicks it, we get some of their information. And from that information, we can understand things like the engagement rate, organic reach, but also finer details such as the country they are in, the cities they are in, the devices and operating systems that they're on, and most importantly, how many actually click through, and from that click through, how many are bots. Because one thing about click throughs is they signal a strong interest intent to actually learn more about your game than simply upvoting, hearting, or liking your stuff. So here in the tracking link section, Twitter was the one that seemed to drove the most click throughs, followed by Blue Sky, and then we have Instagram. So those were the big three. Reddit had a significant impact, and TikTok had basically nothing at this point. At this stage, all of these accounts basically have no following associated with them. The highest is Blue Sky with 13 or 14 followers. Then we have Twitter at 6, TikTok at 2, and Instagram at 1, and then Reddit at 0. So pretty much, yeah, there's no real following, no real viewership here. It come down to the views by platform. The highest was Twitter with 713 views. Then we have Instagram 131, and then followed by TikTok with 31 views. So again, so there's no real large following here for the social media accounts, but they are producing some awareness for the game. So you might be wondering if what we're preaching here about socials being a driving factor real or not. Most games, when they launch, they have an initial spike, and then the wish list just totally crashes. So, as another example, this is from a completely different game that we just launched their Steam page, and we haven't done any marketing on this game yet, including their social medias. So, just showing how this game is working. Here we have the initial spike of the day of the launch, so 7 wish lists, and then it went down to 2, and then now it's just gone to 0 over these past few days. They have gotten absolutely nothing. Same for the overall this wish list growth. You can see now they only have 17 wish lists, and today is now the 29th. So with the past 4 days, they have gotten nothing. But let's look at their traffic. All right, so coming into this game right here, they've had about 1,350 impressions and about 450 visits. This is about half of what the other Steam page got that was doing social media in terms of actual visits. Remember, less visits mean less wish list. So coming down here, they have a 31% click-through rate, which is good. And then let's look at their traffic sources. The highest source is bots. Okay, not good. Direct navigation. Okay, that's the second highest source. Search suggestions. It has a good click-through rate, so the capsule artwork is resonating with people in the search suggestions. So that's a good sign. But again, they're just not getting much traffic. So this game, like the other game, does not have a demo. And without a demo, Steam will not push your game. So you have to bring your own traffic. And here you can see a direct comparison between what the other page had for traffic, which was doing social media, and what this page had for traffic, which is doing absolutely nothing. So doing nothing will result in nothing. So week two is okay. So now that week one has passed, you've actually looked at the results. You see that something is there. You don't know quite what yet, but something is there. Week two, continue posting. Try to do 6, 7, maybe 8 more posts. That means one day might have 2 posts at the same time. Just try to continue to gain more traction with your socials, test it at different times. Just keep going. This is week two. So, second week, the wish list a little bit slowed down from the previous week, which is totally fine because we no longer get that initial spike. But I want to showcase here that the wish list never actually fall to zero. At its high, it was 10 wish lists a day. At its low, it's one. So, and now if we scroll down from the game, we ended at 85 this week, but we started at 52. So you can say we gained almost around between 20 and 30 wish lists for that week. So for the second week, we had some 860 visits. Then we had a 30% click through rate. And to come down to the traffic sources, direct navigation is still the top one where people are coming from. They're coming from external sites. Then bot traffic is going down, which is good. So less bot traffic means that we're now getting more real people that are coming into the website. And the rest of it is just Steam, who is just curating stuff, and people are clicking through the capsule art as they see it come up. And again, capsule art is important because good capsule art will drive clicks through, which ultimately drives wish list. If we look at marketing in this period, the amount of views has actually slightly gone up because we're now getting more traction on social. People start to engage more. So again, we do tracking links. You can see now that Facebook actually shows up here as the source people are clicking through when they're doing the content. Which is great. All by Blue Sky and Twitter, all pretty equal now. Instagram, and then we have TikTok. And then we want to see for this week what platform is driving views. And it looks like this week Twitter is overtaking everything else. So you have Twitter, followed by Instagram, and then a little bit of TikTok is now driving views. But Twitter is our primary driver of growth. And if we come down to our follower count again, it's not very high. It's still about the same. We have Blue Sky, which is first, Twitter, which is second, 8 followers. So again, not very high that we're generating these views with. And then we have both Instagram and TikTok here, and then followed by Reddit is last. All right. So now we're further seeing like where social media and how that's impacting our traffic growth. So let's go back now to week number three. All right, so week three, you probably start getting into a little bit of a groove here where you understand like what hashtags you're using, what kind of content that you want to post, maybe even what's starting to resonate a little bit. At this stage, you might want to start posting maybe twice a day. Really try to ramp up that volume, maybe even 3 times a day. I like to start to post 3 times a day, once in the morning, once in the afternoon, once in the evening. I might even switch it up. I might even do like a dev work in the morning, a video in the afternoon, and artwork at night. So I'm trying now different variations as I get to scale up this social media campaign. All right. So then here we are now coming into week number three. So you can see it starts off a little bit of a dip lower in the other weeks, only one wish list, and the high was only six. So we're no longer at that sort of peak where we were at before in terms of generating those wish lists. And the overall amount of wish lists added this week was actually lower than the other weeks, where this week we're starting at 86 and we only end up about 107. So that is maybe 21 wish lists total for the week. So not very, very high here, but let's see where the traffic sources are now coming from. In the third week of visits, we are slightly lower with only about 770 visits, lower than the other weeks coming in. But if we come down to where our traffic sources are, I want to highlight too that we have now a 38% click through rate, but we have now direct navigation as number one. Then external websites is actually now higher than search suggestions. So this means that more people are coming in from the external websites they're learning about the game than they are from internal websites. And typically what people do is like they'll see the game on the socials or something and they'll like type it in Google. That's what Google's probably the highest right here. And that's how they end up coming to your Steam page is through that search. Everything else is still from Steam. The Steam click throughs are still have a very good percentage, but they're no longer driving as much traffic as they were in previous weeks. So if we go now to the social platforms this week, we have now 2,600 views. So this is now even higher than last week. So people are learning about stuff on social media is actually starting to go higher or organically. Through the tracking the clicks or people clicking through our links. We still have a good even share between Blue Sky, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. TikTok is still pretty low here. Still a good amount of the same countries. Highest audience is the US. And if we come down to the view section, Twitter is still driving the most views for this game, followed by TikTok. Now, TikTok has now had a huge jump. This is probably where we escape the TikTok prison. So when you first create a TikTok account, you're kind of almost shadow banned until they see that you're like a legit account. So now we're probably getting more views from Twitter as Twitter now gives us more traffic in general. And then we have Instagram as the second or the third. Uh, Actually, there it's about the same as TikTok for driving views. And then if you come down to the follower count, so Twitter has had a good bump now. We're at 11 followers. Blue Sky only had one, and everything else is still pretty flat. All right, so now let's go to week 4 of marketing this new Steam page. We're just using social media. And then week 4 is like the final week. We want to go like as hard as we can, get our last bit of content out there, do our last few tests, see what the results are, see how traction is going, and just really just give it your all. So I like to post at this point at least 3 times a day for a week, just to see like if this final week is actually going to amount to anything. So here we are now and going into like week 4 of 10, 11, 17 to 11:23 here, where we're now at round 3, 5, and then back to 3. So, we're still getting some wishes here. Not a terrible amount, but we're never at 0 again. And we start from 110 and we end up at 127. So 27 wish lists in total. So where is now this wish list traffic coming from? So visits this week are up a little bit again. We're at 852. That's up from the 760-ish we had last week. Still a good high click-through rate of 38%. And now here's where things start to get really interesting. So direct navigation is number 1 still. And now very close behind it, even above the bot traffic, is external websites. So again, we're getting more and more people who are coming in, not from the Steam page, but from other sources where they're hearing about the game. And I want you to actually notice this really quickly here. 25% and 22%. This means that around 47, 48% of the game's page is coming from an external source, not through Steam. So clearly, something externally is now driving just about as much traffic to your game's page, just as much as Steam is. And the highest out of that is going to be Google. Now, look at this number here. Out of the 22% from external websites, 21% comes from Google. This means that people are searching for your game, but even more importantly, having a good search engine optimized game will help people find your game and ultimately wishlist it. And the rest of it, again, still comes from Steam. And we still have very good click through rates through a lot of the other Steam pages as well. So that is still good. And coming over from marketing, wow, look at this. From the marketing perspective, the number of views has jumped from around like what 2,000 last week to around now 6,000 views that we got from social media this week. So again, social media is now generating more and more awareness than it was before. For traffic drivers, in terms of click through, people clicking our links that we post on social media, we have Facebook, Blue Sky, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok is still last, but that's TikTok. Now, if we come down to the views here, okay, so we have Twitter as the first, still primary driver of views. So Twitter is driving awareness. Then now we have TikTok. TikTok has now overtaken Instagram in terms of driving views. So, okay, TikTok audience is now getting larger and larger, which is good. And then if we come to the follower size still relatively low, but kind of steadily growing here. So we are at 15 Twitter followers, and then we are at 19 Blue Sky followers. All right, so we're gonna look now at the entire 1 month as a whole and really break everything down here and really go into the analytics. So here you can see what the daily wish lists were like. The highest was 11, the lowest was going to be 1, but we were never at 0. I want you to take notice of that. Being never at 0 is actually for a new game that has 0 following and 0 brand reputation. Never being at 0 is good. And then from that time, we started at 0 wish list and we ended up at 137 wish list total for the period of that 1 month. So, that's a decent start to wish list considering that this game had zero, literally zero brand, zero marketing, nothing coming in. So if we go to the impressions or visits that we had through the entire time, we had 9,000 impressions. We had 3,007 people that actually came towards our Steam page, and we had a 37 click through rate in total for people clicking through Steam capsule assets to the actual Steam page. So we have a very good click through rate here as well. And then here we can start to see where the traffic came from. Again, so the highest right now is direct navigation, and then we have external websites. Remember, last time we looked at external, we saw that external had actually been higher than bot traffic. So even though right now direct navigation external traffic equals 36%, which is high, by the way, that's a high amount of people coming through external websites. Remember, last week we looked at it just for last week. This was almost 50% of traffic that was coming through. And then we still have very good click throughs through our Steam capsule artwork that's being shown across Steam. And then now we're going to look at the total amount of posts that came in through social media. So in this time across all social media platforms, 247 posts. That sounds like a lot. It's actually not. We generated around 12,000 views, not too many comments, a bunch of shares, bookmarks. Then coming down to click through, remember we use tracking links here to track all our click throughs. We had Twitter at 70, Blue Sky at 73, Facebook 59. Then we had Instagram and then TikTok, and then a tiny bit of Reddit coming here. And then coming down here, as far as the platform that drove the most, it was Twitter at first with 9,000 of those views. So Twitter does drive traffic. Then it was by TikTok, and then we had Instagram. Coming down to the followers, you see we now actually have real follower growth starting to come here. We're starting to gain traction and momentum here. So here we have 23 Blue Sky followers. Here we have 17 Twitter, and Instagram, TikTok, and Reddit are still relatively low, but they're still driving traffic. Now I want to dive in a little bit deeper onto this analytics part. But I want to go into the text performance length, hashtag engagement, and heat maps. All right. So so this is what's known as like a heat map, and it's showing based upon the hour of the day and the day of the week that produce best result. And you can start to make sort of um, data driven decisions on what times of the day are generating the best outcomes for your post based upon engagement and views. So here for all the content, we're seeing the early hours is not so good, neither the late hours. So the best times really between 8 and 18 UTC for this particular game. And then the best days seem to be around Wednesdays, at least for engagement. Now, in terms of views, it's very, very similar again. If it's between like 7 and 18, maybe 19 in terms of views. And again, Wednesday seems to be the best day for this game. I want to point out too that every game is different. So don't take this data as this is what will work for your game. You actually have to figure this out by doing a lot of content like we did. We did 100 and we did what 200 something posts to get here. So this takes time. So then we can start to actually then come here and then look at like hashtag performance, which hashtag will perform the best here. And then we will then look at like things like text length. So which text lengths for this game produce the most amount of engagement and views. It's interesting right here. We have longer text produce more views but less engagement, where shorter text had more views but more engagement. That's interesting. So let's actually break this down by each platform now. So if we look at Twitter here, again, the 9,000 views, we had 59 posts for Twitter in total. Now, so coming from Twitter, most of the traffic was seems to be like OS X here, then followed by Windows traffic, iOS, and then Linux. Top countries from Twitter were the US and Denmark. And then if you look at the Twitter heat maps here, Twitter did better in the earlier morning hours and the evening hours. So now we can start to break apart, say things like if we're going to post on Twitter, we want to have earlier hours than the later hours, because the early hours seem to get more traction and views than later hours do. This is where you want to have your data start making these like really smart decisions on how you plan to post stuff when, and then like coming down the hashtags again. uh we will see here that probably some of the best hashtags are game dev. Remember, the whole thing about game dev though is these are other developers who are liking your stuff. They That's good for moral support, not good for necessary purchases. So just be aware of that. Then we have what's happening, which produced a good amount of views. Trending now, Silent Hill. So one of the tactics that we do is we take games that are lookalike games, some of the games that we're working with, and we will then post hashtags around those games as well to have them gain more traction and content. So that's what happened here. And then as far as the video length and impact goes, so the short videos only had 8 of those, 159 views average, so not very high. The medium length of 15 to 60 seconds actually had the highest viewership of all, and then the long video, 1 to 2 minutes, had the lowest viewership. So this is starting to say that maybe longer videos are not as good if you want to stay inside this range, but we need more videos to actually prove that out. Then, as far as the text length goes, so we only had 4 posts that were under short, but they had a good amount of engagement. For Twitter, 23 posts had 171 views, and then 32 posts had 142 views. So, what this is overall saying is that for Twitter, if you want more views, maybe go for the longer post and text. And then if you want more engagement, then go for the shorter views. But this is where we start to understand our data more and more. So then let's look at TikTok. TikTok only had 20 posts. Now, the reason why this only had 20 posts is because TikTok only supported videos that went up. And while Blue Sky and Twitter and other platforms support images. So we only had 20 videos that we did in this entire campaign. Here, the most people that clicked through were iOS, then followed by Android, and then OS X. So these are devices people are on when they're currently, which gonna view the game here. Top country is the United States. That came from TikTok as terms of clicks. And then when it comes time for posting, I would arguably say that this doesn't have enough data yet. Typically, I like to have at least 30 to 40 posts coming in. But if we had to use this data here, it seems that we want to avoid the earlier and later hours. And maybe right now we want to focus in between probably 8 and 8. maybe 15 or 16 UTC, but that was just saying. Now, in terms of the video lengths that we have, 15 to 16 seconds again produce the average viewership, also the highest, second highest amount. So this is right here saying that less than 15 seconds did not produce as much viewership as the mid length videos. And long videos, once again, kind of is bombed out. So just don't use long videos on social media, what that's saying. And then as far as viewership goes, Gaming Addict, I think, is the leading hashtag here for the most average views, followed by For Your Pleasure. I would say, though, yeah, we didn't have enough posts here. You probably need more posts to make a true distinction here of is this working or not, but starting to get a sense of like what hashtags actually matter in this case. And then as far as text length goes, no posts were under 140, so that is mute. But if you look at between the medium and the long, it looks like longer posts had both higher engagement and higher average views here. So again, we're using our data to make this data-driven decisions that we are using here. And I want to point out this one chart here. The reason why this chart suddenly spikes up here for TikTok is this is when we started to create TikTok jail. So one thing you have to realize about TikTok, when you first create your account, you only get like 0 to 2 views. That's because TikTok is like purposely restricting you as your like probation period. After you escape that period, then TikTok will naturally start to give you more views. So this is why this graph suddenly starts to increase rapidly over the last week or so of the campaign. Now, if we go to Instagram, we have a total of 45 posts. Instagram supports video and images. Total of 515 views, so not that many views came from Instagram. The primary traffic Instagram is Windows and Android. People who actually click the links there on Instagram, and the countries were U.S., Denmark, and a few other ones coming down here. And then based upon the post, we could say that the best posting time again maybe was around probably later day for Instagram. Looks like that we want to start to focus our post in. Otherwise, a lot of them aren't getting any traction in the earlier hours, except for this one weird offshoot that's only got a high amount of posts, but that could be an obvious outlier. As far as views in terms of like video length here, um, it looks like for Instagram, based upon what we have, I would want to do more posts, but it looks like the shorter videos got more views and more engagement. This is different from when we did TikTok and Twitter, where the medium views had more engagement. This is where you actually want to understand what works best for each platform for your game. So having this data here actually will make this impact like a lot easier to understand. And as far as hashtags goes, gaming looks like it did decently well. Indie dev, but again, indie dev is targeting developers. So is game dev. So while these tags can get you viewership, they won't necessarily get you people who are going to convert to your game. So just remember that. And then as far as the text performance, 2 posts is not enough. But if you go here, 3 posts, 40 posts, I don't know, it looks like the longer text post might be better. But again, we would need more posts in this case to actually understand what is happening here. And finally, I want to go to Blue Sky. Now, Blue Sky is unique in that because it doesn't necessarily give views, but it does give engagement metrics. So we have no clue what our views were, but we do know how people engaged with the content that we have. So as far as click throughs, Windows was the biggest platform that click throughs on Blue Sky, followed by OS X, and then we had mobile. So Blue Sky looks like it's mostly Windows based. Top countries were the US, and then the standard other countries, Denmark, France, and so forth. Then, if we go to the posting engagement, again, no views. So this one's empty. We just do it based upon engagement. It looks like for engagement, we want to stay probably between Sunday and Thursday, and we want to do between hours of 18 UTC. So again, this gives us a good engagement metrics of when to post, but likely get the best engagement out of post. Coming down to the hashtags and video length, let's do video length first. So out of this, it looks like medium got the most engagement. The long ones got the least engagement, and short was slightly behind medium. Again, we need probably more videos to actually make an assessment, but we're being to understand what video length has the best impact for Blue Sky. And then as far as the hashtags go, we have game devs, which is good again, but this targets other game developers. It doesn't necessarily target consumers. Just be aware of that. You have art and digital art, which performed well. Then horror. So horror was a very good hashtag for engagement for Blue Sky. So we want to keep using that so we have an understanding of what's working for Blue Sky. And then finally for text length, again, we can't record views, just engagement. It looks like here, only had 6 posts here, but it had a good engagement rate for Blue Sky. So maybe shorter is better on here, followed by medium, which had 6.4, and then long we only had 6.8. I guess for these two I would want more posts, but for Blue Sky it looks like the medium length might perform the, I guess, least performative on this platform. And the last thing, remember, Blue Sky did had the highest follower growth out of any platform, so keep that in mind if you want followers. Okay, so let's review the major points coming out of this. One, a lot of content had to be produced for us to understand what content performs the best. So you can't just do like 1, 3, or 5 posts for a week. It takes an extended amount of time and content to actually get the results where you can start to make data driven decisions. Two, just because you have a low following count does not mean that you are not creating viewership. Over that month time period, across all accounts, we literally only had maybe like 40 or 50 followers, but we were able to produce 12,000 views. So if you feel like you're streaming into the void, look at things like how many views are you actually generating? And then the most important thing you want to look at is then how is that viewership you're generating translating into your bottom line KPIs, which means how are they translating into wish lists or installs or sales for your game. We're going to touch base on a little bit later why we did not use UTMs, but what we can come to a conclusion on is that the external traffic we generated had an impact on our Steam's page. Next thing we need to discuss is time. It takes time to actually build up your social media presence. So from that 1 month period, we only produced around 140 wish lists, and we only got maybe about 10 new followers, even though we generated around 12,000 views. Now, if you had some ad money, you could actually advertise for followers and expedite your growth faster. But again, that's a different video or lesson that we will get into how to do that effectively. So here is an example of a different account, and I want to showcase their Blue Sky over a period of 1 year. So about a year ago, they had only about 900 followers, and then a year later, they're now up to around 1,400 followers. So you get the sense that this is not going to be an overnight success thing to actually grow your following. So if you start to look at some of the top performing indie games, if you have a budget, you can do this a little bit differently as you can put more money into actual ad spending growth or influencers. But the best indie games you would notice, if you look at like their wish list growth, they're growing their wish list over a period of like 3, 4, 5 years to get that 30, 40, 50,000 wish list. And this is very, very common for successful indie games on how they execute this. So if you're an indie game and you want to use a social strategy, you have to think long term. So if you're thinking, oh, I'm gonna wait, to start my Steam page, or I'm gonna wait to start my socials, the longer you wait, the harder it will become to meet certain metrics at a faster pace. What you want to do is really start your Steam page early. And the reason why I hope you can see through all the data that I'm giving you is that it takes a while to grow your wish list and your follower account if you are budget strapped and it takes work to do. So what's next? Do you keep producing content at this crazy rate of like 3 times a day or 7 posts a week or some, large amount of content volume? No, you can actually just start to chill out now because you started to build momentum. Even without posting in the past few days, our wish lists have now gone up to 158 and we are still now getting more daily wish list actions. And that's because the momentum that we have built before is now still carrying through. As you scale back your content to around 2 to 3 posts a week, you now need to plan your social strategies into your marketing beats. So, do you have any festivals coming up? Are you releasing a demo soon? Are you having some influencers play testing? Next fest releasing the game, you want to then start to only increase your social posting as you get closer and closer to a specific event around your game. And remember, the reason why you want to keep posting 2 to 3 times a week is because you want to build up these wish lists in the long term. Now, for the final topic, UTMs. Why did we not rely on UTMs to tell us if our tracking links are working or not? UTMs on Steam have one major problem, and it's not necessarily Steam's fault per se. It's the way that privacy laws are set up and how tracking is done on Steam side. See, Steam can only attribute a wishlist UTM to a tracked clicked. This tracked click means that the user must be logged into Steam when using the UTM. You see, the problem is that for many social media sites, many of the apps now, including Reddit, has an in-app browser, which means that when a user clicks the link and they go to the web page, they're viewing that Steam page inside the browser's app, and which they likely are not logged into Steam. So they either have to go outside the browser app or they have to go to their PC and actually wishlist the game. At that point, attribution is destroyed and it's no longer tracked towards that UTM. Hence why like you'll see like 100 clicks from a UTM and you see only like 2 wish lists and it makes no sense. So just take that in mind of why UTM tracking is typically not the best kind of tracking for this on Steam. The way we get around that actually is something called cross device tracking. This is out of scope and it's more of an advanced topic. With cross device tracking, we can actually attribute when a user clicks a link or goes to your website and then they actually install the game. It can't work through wishlist quite well yet, but when they install the game, we can say, hey, this user visited this social media post and then they actually installed it. And through that attribution, we can actually associate where users are flowing and actually what social sites are driving your installs for the game. But again, that is a way more sophisticated topic that's outside the scope of this. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. It was really done for 2 reasons. One, many developers struggle with the first month and they give up after like a week or so. So we want to showcase that social media takes real time commitment to do, and that the first month is only the first step. And there's no better way of showing that than giving like real data and real examples of how we actually execute with games. The second thing I wanted to show you is how to use data and make data driven decisions around your marketing, including social media marketing. So, when you go forward with the marketing, whether you do it yourself or you're paying someone to do it for you, make sure that you have all your data or they have all the data necessary. And ask them too, what data are they using to make data driven decisions if they're doing marketing for you? And really use that to make sure that the best decisions are being made for your game and your game's growth. Thank you.